This 6:15 p.m. in Douala. Thanks and welcome to join me on the news. I'm Kejang Henry at Tembe. We begin with our top story. Muslims are today celebrating the feast of the Ramadan, coming 30 days after the fasting. The 6 p.m. news brings to you updates of the celebration in some parts of the country. And CPDM Senator for the Northwest Region, Regina Elizabeth Mundi, is still in the hands of her captors, who are asking for the exchange of her freedom with Anglophone detainees. And a crown of thorns for the new chief of the more than 2,000 Nkongombo community living in Douala. Chief Fazora Bissong was handed the spiritual staff by the paramount leader of the Nkongombo community, His Royal Majesty Foven, and of course with the blessings of this divisional officer for Douala 4 subdivision. Those are our top stories. In a split second, we are having the news.
Canal International. Canal International.
Welcome to join me. I'm Kejang Henry at Tembe. You can hook up with us on our Facebook page, Canal International, or move to our YouTube platform. Now, thousands of Muslims are today celebrating the feast of the Ramadan. The faithfuls actually thronged the Islamic complex in Chinga in Yaoundé for the prayer session. And of course, the prayer session was said by the Imam Ibrahim Sudainas. Listen to the report, courtesy from our Yaoundé Bureau Chief Correspondent Beatrice Nkamu.
These Muslim faithfuls have gathered at the Pakuvita prayer ground to celebrate the feast of Ramadan. The Imam called on the Muslim faithfuls to pray for peace in Cameroon, especially in the two English-speaking regions, the Far North and the East region. One of the messages is that of peace and calmness, and that Allah should protect us and that we live together in peace. The Imam prayed for peace in Cameroon. He prayed for the Muslim community for understanding, solidarity, and most especially living together, and prayed for peace to return in the zones of conflict. Some Christians in the Muslim community took part in this prayer session. I have to support the Muslim community in their prayer. During this period, I participated in the handing over of gifts to the less privileged. So it was necessary that I come for prayers. That's the reason I am here. I want to tell the Muslim community that we are together and will always be together. The Feast of Ramadan marks the end of the 30 days fasting program observed by Muslims, one of the pillars of Islam.
Furnishing report instead coming from Douala as the Muslim faithfuls converge at the Pakuvita in Douala. We swing over to Yaoundé to meet Beatrice Nkamu, where thousands of Muslims actually thronged the Islamic complex in Chinga to pray for peace. And the Imam of that mosque, Ibrahim Sudainsi, actually was the high priest.
It is with joyful and humble hearts that Muslim faithfuls adorn in their ganduras and bobos made it to the different prayer grounds to praise and exalt the greatness and purity of Allah on this day of Eid al-Fitr, commemorating the end of the fasting month of Ramadan. Speaking to the thousands of faithfuls that crowded Islamic complex, yard and around the building outside in Yaoundé, Imam Ibrahim Sudaisi solicits Allah to accept the prayers and supplications of the people in truth and devotion, far from evil and sin. The worshippers of Allah were also exhorted to pray for peace, unity in Cameroon, and love for one another through kindness.
The importance of peace for this country, the importance of peace in this world. Today is not just to celebrate, drink, to eat. It's a day of praying for this country, praying for the return of peace in this country.
Need to move, therefore, from words to action.
Go out from here, work for the return of peace in Cameroon, for the return of peace on the regions, that are concerned with the peace in this country. That is our prayer.
And this concerns not only Muslims, but all Cameroonians as a whole.
Because we have seen, how other Cameroonians who are not Muslim help them to eat during this important month. That is the proof, of living together in Cameroon.
Message well understood by the believers.
We talk for any people say we must change fashion. Any man go see brother like God bless all people. God bless all Muslims. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
It is day of sharing meals, visit to loved ones among many, the high point of the celebration that runs for 3 days.
Well, Beatrice and Gamma reporting there from Yaoundé. Thanks, Beatrice. And we swing over to Bamenda to see that, Muslim clerics in Bamenda actually have prayed and offered prayers for peaceful coexistence with their Christian brethren and for the war in Ukraine. And of course, these days, some faithfuls actually send prayers in different directions for diverse purposes. Amongst those faithfuls were Alim Galigi, who actually prayed for the faithfuls, for the peace to return in those areas. And of course, we had faithfuls like Abdul Karim, who is a Muslim cleric and, of course, a scholar. And in Bamenda, the Imam of the Central Mosque, Musa Shuaibu Baba Malam, actually delivered the sermon. And this was, of course, closely watched by the governor or the Secretary General of the Northwest Governor's Office, who actually was part of that ceremony. We will be bringing you details in our subsequent program. Now we still remain in Bamenda, where there is this bad news still in the air. The Senator for the Northwest Region, CPDM, Senator for the Northwest Region, Elizabeth Regina Mundi, is still in the hands of her captors about 3 days after she was picked up by separatist fighters. Senator Regina Mundi is still with her captors 3 days after she was kidnapped at Foncha Street by separatist fighters. The CPDM senator and member of the Politburo of the ruling party was forced to read out a message denouncing the conflict in the English-speaking region of Cameroon. The bewildered senator, from a video that has gone viral on the social media, read the message in which she announced her resignation from the CPDM party to join the separatist fighters. Amongst other things, her captors are demanding for the release of what they call all Ambazonian leaders and prisoners held in Yaoundé in exchange for her release. Senator Mundi is not the only member of Cameroon's parliament to have been kidnapped. Many have suffered the same fate, with the last being Senator Kemende Henry Gamse, who was shot and killed in cold blood, still in Bamenda. And over to Yaoundé, maybe Garwa this time. Of course, there is a gang of hostage. 3 gang members of a group has been arrested, while 3 others are still on the run after they took a family hostage and swing over to neighboring Nigeria. And of course, a formidable fight was put up by the members of the vigilante community in Garwa alongside the security operatives. Details with Regina Leketandak.
It was thanks to the vigilante group in Gateway in the Mayo Ona division that the gendarmerie was able to apprehend these hostage takers. Investigations carried out by the Gendarmerie Legion 1 of Garoua led to the dismantling of this gang.
We are young volunteers who have organized ourselves to help our government to fight against theft and hostage taking. We are using this opportunity to see that if you suspect any criminal activity around your area, call us. Together with the gendarmes, we shall bring them down.
Weapons and war artillery were seized from the hostage takers. 3 of them were captured, while 3 others fled. The move is intended to liberate the population from the hands of hostage takers who have been terrorizing the communities.
En effet, dans la nuit du 18 au 19 avril, 6 individus armés.
Earlier in April, 6 individuals with war weapons invaded the town of Gerite. They kidnapped the son of Muhammadu Hamadu. The resistance of the victims is what alerted the population, who immediately called the gendarmerie with the help of about 10 members of the vigilante group. We organized a combat. This combat permitted us to uncover the camp of the criminals. We arrested 3 and the others fled to the forest towards the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
These hostage takers, who had demanded huge ransom from their victims, will be presented before the procurer to answer for their crimes, while the population has been exhorted to report any suspected case.
Thanks, Regina. And we talk more news. Still, this time Christian news, as the Bonkesheri women of the Littoral region actually have prayed for peaceful repose of the souls of their departed ones. The prayer session took place on Saturday, April 30 at the St. John Parish in Dedu, Douala. Photos in the following report. The Bonkesheri women of the Nso clan living in Douala have prayed for the repose of the souls of their lost ones and many others as a result of the different problems. The women converged on Saturday, April 30, 2022 at the St. John Catholic Church, Dedu, to pray for their husbands, children and wives who have gone ahead.
The objective that we wish to achieve today is praying for the repose of the souls of our departed members, their husbands and their children. Also, their visitors who came and visited them in Douala here, and God happened to call them. We pray that Lord may have mercy on their souls and receive them into their heavenly kingdom.
In this homily, the celebrant, Father Emmanuel Binka, who came from the Edea parish, had a message to the Bonkesheri women of Douala.
The Holy Bible tells us that it is very important in the 2nd book of Maccabees to pray for the dead. And so Bonkesheri decided to organize this Holy Eucharistic celebration to ask God to welcome their brothers and sisters whom he has already called from this earth to himself.
The incorporation of the ceremony was a good blend, as the soul tradition and the church were displayed during the memorial service. Special offering was carried out for the erection of a church for the English community of Dedu, Douala. And that was the Bonkesheri community praying there. And it is the dawn of a new era in the Nkongambo community in Douala, as they have enthroned a new chief. Chief Fonzong Bisong has been handed the spiritual staff, with which he has to guide his more than 2,000 Nkongambo members living in Douala. Vetoes in the following report. The destiny of the Nkongambo community in Douala is now in the hands of His Royal Highness Chief Fonzong Bisong Joseph, who has to report to the paramount ruler of the Nkongambos back home on how his kith and kins are faring. Chief Fonzong Bisong Joseph was handed the royal shaft on Saturday, April 30, 2022 by His Royal Majesty Chief Foven of Cliquez.
Before him being the chief appointed here, God has appointed him. And I do believe that he will do everything possible to rule the people well.
Conscious of the Herculean task ahead to manage the more than 2,000 Nkongambo people living in Douala, Chief Fonzong Bisong says his roadmap will determine.
What I have as a message is that I've accepted the responsibility to render services to them, to work like a servant. So That's the message I have for them.
The newly installed Nkongombo chief received the blessings of the divisional officer for Douala 4, who assured him of government support as an auxiliary to the administration.
We are going to work along with you. We will always be behind you. So any problem you may be having, the newly appointed chief is there through him.
Worthy of note is the fact that many Nkongombo sons and daughters streamed into Douala in the recent past as a result of the conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon to seek refuge and better life. The ceremony was graced with a cultural display of the Nkongombo vangs, in which a Calais was on the spotlight. Much for having been with us on this edition of the newscast. I've been Kijang Henry. Timmy, thanking you for keeping the faith with us. And of course, to say that, well, President Paul Biya has already decreed that tomorrow is a public holiday. From all of us, it's goodbye from me.